The stadium had been empty for years. Seats covered in dust, stage boards beginning to rot. Yet every time I stepped inside, I swore I could still hear the roar of thousands of fans echoing in my ears. I was one of Michael's old sound engineers. I worked with him for years, capturing every breath, every vibration from his microphone. But ever since Michael was gone, this place had changed. That night, I came only for a routine check. The new owners were considering tearing the stadium down, and the sound system needed to be dismantled. I carried cables in my bag, a notepad in my hand. But when I reached the center of the stage, I froze, because a voice was rising from the speakers. At first, I thought it was a glitch in the power, but then I made out the words, a whisper, a melodic breath, followed by that unmistakable tone, Michael's voice. You are not alone? I froze. The pen in my hand fell to the floor. The stage was empty, the microphones dead, the recording decks long gone. Yet his voice echoed as if alive. For a moment my eyes welled up, because I had missed that voice for so long. But then something shifted. The sound began to distort. The tones darkened, the rhythm slowed, the words broke apart. You are. Not, then silence. And in that silence I realized this wasn't a recording. The voice was speaking directly to me. The shadows of the empty stadium deepened, as if eyes were watching me from every corner. My heartbeat thundered. Then I heard Michael again, clear, sharp, undeniable. I'm watching you. I stood frozen at the center of the stage. The whole universe seemed to collapse into silence, except for that ominous breath seeping through the speakers. The boards beneath my feet groaned, but it wasn't a normal creak. It had rhythm, the kind I remembered from Michael's live shows, but now slower, darker, heavier. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my notepad. Years of analyzing sounds from these stages had made it second nature. But when I flipped it open, something stopped me cold. Between the pages, there was a note I didn't remember writing. Just one sentence. Sound is not only heard, it lives. The pen slipped from my hand. The moment it touched the page, it began to move on its own. My eyes widened. Letters scratched across the paper as if guided by an invisible hand. I'm still here. My throat tightened. This wasn't just about ghostly echoes anymore. Something physical was happening. I turned, scanning the stands. That's when I saw it, a shadow shifting among the seats. At first I thought it was dust playing tricks, but then it solidified. A silhouette moving toward the stage with heavy, deliberate steps. The speakers came alive again. Not with a song this time, but with a whisper, close, almost in my ear. I always heard you. You heard me too, didn't you? I staggered back, trembling. The microphones were all dead, but the voice grew closer. I could hear the breathing. In the stands, the shadow became sharper, though its face never surfaced from the darkness. But the way it walked, it was familiar. The exact steps I'd seen on stage, night after night. There was only one explanation left. This stadium didn't just hold memories. Time itself had fractured. The pages of the notebook began to flip on their own. With each turn, a new sound echoed in my ears. Applause, screams of fans, the rhythmic stomp of feet. It was as if concerts from years ago had been trapped inside the walls of this stadium. But this wasn't memory. It was a replay. As the silhouette drew closer to the stage, the sounds grew louder. I knew the seats were empty, but the shadows made them seem full. When the moonlight hit the corner of the stage, footprints appeared in the dust. Step by step, they moved forward, though no one was there. My heart pounded against my chest. I took a sharp breath and listened to the speakers again. This time it wasn't just whispers. It was like a chorus, but broken, twisted. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Each repetition became more metallic, more alien. Finally, the silhouette reached the edge of the stage. It was a full human form now, but faceless. It lifted its head and looked straight at me. In that instant, every light in the stadium flared. The stage spotlights roared to life, the stands bathed in blinding white glow. And then I saw them, thousands of shadows sitting in the seats, silent, motionless, eyes locked on me. That's when I understood. This wasn't a ghost performance. This was a show still going on, but the song didn't belong to Michael anymore. The song was calling me. The moment the spotlights flared, a piercing hum filled my ears. Thousands of shadowy spectators opened their mouths in unison, but no sound came out. Instead of screams, there was silence, a silence so heavy it made my head ring. Then, from the speakers, a melody rose, familiar. It had to be Michael Jackson's voice, but distorted. The words broke apart, scattered inside an echo. The notebook still lay at the center of the stage. Its pages kept writing on their own. This time, the sentence was clear. If the song isn't yours, it will find you. My knees trembled. It wasn't just a message for Michael. It was for me, too. One shadow among the crowd was different, sharper, more defined, as though its face tried to take shape but kept dissolving. It rose and began walking toward the stage. The others remained still, frozen, but its footsteps echoed like drums. The closer it came, the more its features revealed themselves. My heart raced, the tilt of its head, the curve of its shoulders, the rhythm of its stride reminded me of someone. This shadow. It looked like Michael, but its eyes were gone. Only hollow darkness remained. Then the stage lights flickered again, and from the speakers came a warped voice. A song without an audience never ends. With every step the silhouette took onto the stage, the dust rippled outward. It was as if an invisible wind moved only around it. I backed away, but my eyes stayed locked on the notebook. Its pages flipped wildly, words appearing as though they were burning onto the paper, then vanishing. Over and over the same line, "The song has chosen you." A scream lodged in my throat, but no sound came out, because at that moment the shadows in the stands raised their hands. Thousands of arms lifted in perfect unison. No glow in their eyes, no expression on their faces, yet their movements were flawless. They weren't an audience, they were a choir. The voice from the speakers grew more human, resembling Michael's tone, but distorted like a corrupted recording. And then the silhouette on stage bowed its head toward a stand with no microphone. My breath caught in my chest. There was no mic, yet I heard it. Sing with me. My heart pounded. I wanted to run, but my feet felt nailed to the ground. After that warped command, the thousands of shadows in the stands opened their mouths in unison. This time sound poured out, but it wasn't human. It was a roar, a storm, an agony. I clutched my ears, but the sound crawled straight into my skull. I dropped to my knees, and then, across the notebook's glowing page, a new line appeared. "You're on stage now." Even with my hands clamped over my ears, the sound carved itself deep into my skull. It was like thousands of muffled mouths exhaling straight into my soul. I had collapsed to my knees, gasping for breath. When I opened my eyes, the notebook in the center of the stage glowed brighter than ever. Its pages no longer held words, but lines. Lines merging, spreading like ripples forming sheet music. A song, but one I had never written. The silhouette took a step toward the empty microphone stand. In that instant, the voices from the speakers cut off. The stadium drowned in dead silence. Thousands of shadows remained frozen, arms still raised in the air. Time itself seemed suspended. Only the glowing notebook continued to move. Then the silhouette turned its head toward me. Faceless, yet I felt its gaze, heavy, searing, inescapable. As though the entire stage, the shadows, the echoes, all were focused on me. New words etched themselves across the notebook's page. "Now it's your turn." My heart thundered. I staggered back, but my feet still felt nailed to the ground. And then, from the speakers, a new voice rose. Not a whisper this time. Clear, terrifyingly clear. Michael's voice. "Don't stop. Continue." The silhouette's gaze fixed on me, and the entire stadium seemed to collapse into silence. It wasn't ordinary silence. The air grew heavy, like an invisible weight pressed against my chest. In the stands, the frozen shadows still hung with their arms raised. As the seconds dragged on, I realized this wasn't a pause. It was a trap. They weren't just quiet. They were outside of time. The light from the notebook began to dim, but sentences still etched themselves onto the pages. When the choir falls silent, the song continues. I tried to stand, but my knees shook violently. Then Michael's voice came through the speakers again. Familiar, but more mechanical, more hollow. "Do not wake them." My pulse raced. I didn't know why, but my instincts screamed that waking the silent audience would be far worse than anything facing me now. Still, I couldn't tear my eyes away from the silhouette on stage. It didn't move, didn't speak, it only stared. And in that stare was an unspoken command. The notebook flared once more. A new line appeared. "Without your voice, the song will never be complete." That's when it hit me. This wasn't just Michael's echo. The stage itself demanded my voice. The frozen audience, the empty microphone stand, the notebook writing sheet music on its own, it was all pointing to me. But a question burned inside me. If I sang, who would the song belong to? To me, or to the eyeless figure watching me from the shadows? The microphone stand rose before me, the only thing alive in the sea of darkness. The frozen shadows surrounded it, but the microphone itself, it breathed. It vibrated softly, echoing faintly on its own, as though it was calling me. In the center of the stage, the notebook pulsed with light, etching a new line. "The song never dies, it only waits." My throat tightened. I felt both fear and a strange curiosity. What would happen if I sang? And what if I didn't? In the crowd, one of the shadows moved. Just a single arm lowering slowly. That tiny disturbance in the silence felt like the prelude to something catastrophic. The microphone carried an invisible breath. As I leaned closer, it merged with the pounding rhythm of my pulse. And then, from the speakers, a voice rose. It wasn't mine. It was the voice of a child, thin, fragile, yet familiar. Michael's voice as a child. "Don't leave me unfinished." I froze. Beneath that child's voice, another vibration echoed older, cracked, carrying the burden of years. Two Michaels speaking at once. The notebook shimmered again, its words flickering across the page. Past and future meet in the same song. That's when I realized I no longer had a choice. I stood before the microphone, holding my breath, waiting for the words to shape themselves on my lips. Yet one question screamed inside me. If I sang, would the voice still be mine, or would it forever belong to something else? As I leaned toward the microphone, an invisible knot tightened in my throat. Breathing itself became difficult. The first sound that slipped from my lips wasn't mine. It was the voice of young Michael, pure, clear, but fragile. At the same time, the speakers carried another voice, older, weary, burdened by years. Two voices collided, layered over each other, filling the stage. The shadows in the stands began to tremble. Frozen bodies cracked like ice as they stirred. One pair of eyes flared suddenly, then dimmed. My chest clenched as if pierced by a nail. The notebook's glow swelled, new words burning across the page. The song must choose one voice. My hands shook. I gripped the microphone, yet it slipped in my grasp like it didn't belong to me. Inside, a voice screamed, "Don't sing," but the stage demanded otherwise. The child's voice whispered, "Complete me." The older voice groaned, "Let me go." Two Michaels, two paths, past and future. Whichever I chose, the other would vanish. Slowly, the shadows in the stands rose to their feet, moving in synchronized steps. The silence of the stadium shifted into a deep, oppressive hum. Time was running out. The notebook's page flickered with a final line, "Your answer will seal the stage forever." And that's when I realized what was expected of me wasn't just to sing a song, it was to decide a fate. As I stood before the microphone, I felt time bend around me. Young Michael's voice quivered while the older Michael's breath dragged heavy. The notebook's glow blinded me. Its final line was written in crimson, like blood. Make your choice. One will live, the other will vanish. The audience, or rather the shadows, rose completely. They breathed as one, a low rumble that drowned my ears. My hand trembled against the cold metal of the mic. Inside me, the two voices wrestled, the innocence of youth against the weight of age. I stepped forward, whispered into the microphone. I carried both. A scream tore through the stage. The notebook burst into flames, its pages turning into white ash that floated upward like broken wings. The shadows staggered back, their faces flashing for a heartbeat, ghosts of the past, lost applause, consumed lives, and then, one by one, they vanished. The stadium emptied, silence crushing down like a stone. I was left alone at the center of the stage. The microphone head fell to the ground, ringing out an ominous metallic echo. Where the notebook had been, only a blackened scar remained. In the mirror at the back of the stage, I saw my reflection. But this time it was different. No child, no elder, just me. My own eyes, my own breath. And for the first time, it felt like I wasn't owned by the stage. I owned it. Yet a doubt lingered. Was this freedom, or just the opening act of a new game?